Welcome, 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 welcome to Star Wars Generations podcast, where it is myself, it is Aaron, Alex is nowhere to be found, and we are talking about Ahsoka on the run, Asajj Ventress on the run. We're talking about the Clone Wars Season 4, episodes 14, 19, and 20, which is a bit of a weird collection, but it's my turn to pick again. We're still waiting for Alex to decide that a major state crisis that he has to document and is doing incredible work that somehow he thinks that's more important than this podcast. I don't get it. Aaron doesn't get it, but here we are. We're ready to talk about it.
Well, actually, right now he's in Japan, so he's not even saving the world.
Oh,
He's
well,
just having fun.
Japan has internet, last I checked, so he could be signing on. It is about 3 a.m. I fully expect him to be doing fun. Well, he's probably had a lot of sake and maybe not. Well, I think he'd be entertaining on a podcast at 3 a.m. his time, but there we go. We're just going to move on.
Yeah.
All right. So we have kind of two different sets of episodes. One is a standalone where Ahsoka is returning to her old friend, possible crush, possible going to get her killed, Lux Monteri. And then we get a 2-episode arc at the end of the season about Asajj Ventress and the Night Sisters and all sorts of craziness. But let's start with Ahsoka. What'd you think?
I love this episode. This was one of my favorites growing up because, as I kind of mentioned before, when Lux was originally introduced, as a little girl, I'm always excited for a little bit of romance in my war show. And I was like,
Yeah, sure.
Ew. And then they never brought him up again. And I was like, that's okay. And then he came back and I was like, I knew it. Of course, as a kid, I was all hung up on their awkward fake kiss in this episode. Now I just see it as, just more funny shenanigans. Lux being a naive little bitch and Ahsoka being also naive, but at least she knows how to protect herself and others.
Yeah, I think this is a really interesting episode for Ahsoka because we get, I do think there's a teeny bit of flirtation there, but this is I don't think there's ever a moment's thought that she's going to come close to doing anything against her vows. This is Obi-Wan and Satine even is going to make her blush. But more importantly, it is a time where she gets to go off on her own. She does clearly is interested and wants to take care of the person. I think though that this is one of those times where she's kind of so obsessed with the rules and what's right that she kind of makes some dumb decisions. Now I know I'm coming at your girl here, but are we open to this or we got pushed? Because here's my thing. Lux is clear. Lux clearly, to remind people who haven't seen the episode, there's a peace talk happening between the Separatists and the Republic. It looks like we might have a real talk happening. And Lux comes in. Remember, he's the son of Mina Monteri, who before had been the person who was one of the leaders of the Separatists who wanted to make peace. She's not around. No one knows why. And he comes in and is like, oh, actually, it's because Dooku killed her. And so we should be doing something about that. They're all on this neutral planet, Mandalore. So the Separatists arrest him. The Republic can't really do anything. And Dooku's basically about to kill him when Ahsoka helps break him out. At which point, Lux numerous times says, I have a plan. You should go away. I don't need your help. I don't want to get you in trouble. And Ahsoka's like, no, that doesn't make any sense. I'm going to rescue you.
Yeah.
Goes along with his plan, which it turns out involves Death Watch. So this might not have been the best plan, but Ahsoka's then, why would you get me in danger? How could you be so stupid? At which point I'm like, Ahsoka, you had every option to get off this train.
He literally asked you to.
Yeah, he told you to. He gave you opportunities to. He said, wait in the ship. You were like, no. You bought the ticket. You can't be complaining about the destination.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. There's some classic Ahsoka stubbornness of well, I rescued you because you were obviously going to get killed. And there's no way you silly little senator boy could have gotten yourself out of it. So now I have to take you back to the Republic so we can put you in protective custody so Dooku won't kill you.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, and then stuns her to sleep. He's like, I got to go meet up with somebody else. And they met up on Karlak, which I believe is in the Mandalorian system. But yeah, and Ahsoka wakes up, goes out, and she's like, Lux, what the fuck, man? Like, what's going on? And then Death Watch pulls up and she's like all protective, like, oh my God. And then they're like, hey, Lux, nice to see you. Who's your friend?
Mm-hmm.
And she comes up with the story of them being betrothed and whatnot. They go back to the camp.
Yeah. And after that, there's shenanigans, there's adventures. And yes, it does turn out that trying to make a deal with an honorable, upright group like Death Watch is a really stupid idea. And Ahsoka's kind of right in that. And she gets to rescue him. And that's fun. But I think it's an important episode for reminding us of like Ahsoka, kind of like Anakin, will sometimes will leap before she looks.
Yeah.
But also will sort of be very focused on, I'm right. I know the situation. I don't need to ask questions. And I think this is kind of a learning moment for her of realizing like maybe that's not always the case. And maybe I do need to like look a little more and try to understand what's going on without just assuming that if I think someone else is wrong, then clearly it's my job to step in.
Yeah, just without the assumption of I'm right in all situations and other people are misguided if they're going to do something a different way than I would have done it.
Right. Right. For sure. Anything else? Like that was pretty much the main thing I wanted to get into for this episode. It's also fun because, like you said, we do get the Lux interaction. I think he's a really fun character, and it's, it's. I always thought it's like you're right. You're watching. You want a little flirtation. I love a little flirtation and things, and I think it highlights that, Ahsoka is someone not like Anakin. She's been part of the Jedi since she was very, very young. Tales of the Jedi established that. Mm-hmm. She's been raised with, all of the understandings of, avoid attachment, and your focus is on the Jedi, and you're supposed to love people, not an individual person. She's also a teenager and has the hormones. I mean, I don't know much about Togruta, biology, but there's some kind of puberty going on, and there's some kind of hormones going on, and there's Lux looking cute and kind of dumb, and sometimes that's appealing. And yeah, I just like that reminder of, this isn't easy. This is the consequence of you have to just avoid attachment stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And just like I like the story it tells for Lux, and we'll see him in the next season on Onderon, and he's got some stake in a really fun arc there. And I like seeing this as like his initial like, okay, the Separatists are wrong. I also think the Republic are wrong. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to do things right. And then just fucks it so bad.
Yeah.
Because, like, I mean, even if Ahsoka wasn't there, he still would have gone. He would have met with Death Watch. They would have gotten the coordinates. They would have gone after Dooku. But Death Watch still would have most likely burned the villagers' village and killed the chieftain's granddaughter. And Lux wouldn't have been okay with that, leading them to kill him, most likely.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I like that the version that we see of him next season is a little more hardened, a little more wary, one might say. I like that both characters really seem to learn from this. And I loved the way that this episode ended. It ripped my heart out as a child. But the way that, they get back to the ship, they escape, and she's like, okay, let's go back to the Republic together because we won. And he's like, girl, I mean, he doesn't even say anything. R2's just like, oh, hey, the escape pod was activated. And she's like, what the hell? So she runs down there and she's like, Lux, where are you going? And he's like, I can't come with you. Like, why do you think that me coming to the Republic is the best thing? Because it's not.
Yeah.
And they have the classic moment of putting their hand against the glass towards each other. And I think she said something along the lines of just like, stay safe.
Yeah.
And I loved that because as a young child, I saw it as, oh, I'm glad they brought this character of Lux back. I'm glad that we got to see a little more flirtation, but I felt like this was a closing chapter to the aspect of their flirtation with like, they're going their separate ways and they're both somewhat accepting of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love this episode. I'm really glad that you picked it because otherwise I would have picked it. Another just two quick shout out. Oh, can I have 3 shout outs for this episode before we move on? Cool. So R2-D2 is with them, like I mentioned earlier. And when they go there, the Mandalorians are basically using old battle droids and just other droids as target practice. And then they tell R2-D2, reassemble them. And we get some like a low-key scary scene of just this one droid being like, reassemble us. reassemble us. And all the other
Yeah.
droids are like crowding around R2 and he's like, wee! You know, R2 noises, whatever. But he ends up making himself like a little friend army, and they kind of come into play to let Ahsoka escape and get the upper hand.
Yeah. I
And
will say that scene did bother me a bit. I'm glad you reminded me of it, because we've talked before about how it does feel like they set it up that our heroes are fighting droids so that we can be like, we don't care about how many thousands and millions of people they're killing because they're droids.
yeah,
And there have been a number of times where we're reminded the droids are sentient, and the droids are often suffering and terrified as they're about to die.
yeah,
And it's set up as a laugh. And like, okay, that's fine. But like, Ahsoka will like do something, and then the droid will go, oh no, and then die. And our heroes are like, cool, we killed the droid. So here, when this group is being cruel to droids, and all of us, and like, granted, they're being particularly cruel. They're like, we're going to shoot them, assemble them so we can shoot them again.
yeah.
It's not great. I think it's worse than what the Republic is doing, but by a matter of degree, it does feel a little like we're supposed to care about the droids when we're supposed to care about the droids, and that the rest of the time we ignore it.
Yeah. It very much sets up like the dichotomy of like, well, in this episode, it would be really helpful to have these droids, come and make a resurgence, and that'll help tell our story, blah, blah, blah. And, it'll show just how evil Death Watch is because they're attacking these defenseless droids. But yeah, it's like you sit there and you have the empathy for those droids. And I think just because I grew up on the Clone Wars, there's very little you could say to me to make me have empathy for a B1 banana head battle droid. But other droids, I can definitely feel that like sentient empathy for. And especially in a scene like this where those droids, they were just like, and most of them weren't at like production standard. They had been reassembled with pieces of other droids,
right?
And they were like shortened or this and that. And it was really, really sad, honestly.
Yeah, very much so.
I remember it hurting my feelings as a kid, to be honest with you, and being like, damn, like not damn, because I was Christian and I didn't swear, but like Death Watch like really doesn't care about anything. Like, these are evil people. I mean, I think it got the point across great, but I love that you brought up the dichotomy it makes us recognize throughout this entire series of why are separatist battle droids or separatist droids bad and other droids are allowed to have sentience and empathy and feeling.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's my point. Like, I like that they do it. I'm with you on that. I just think it's interesting that they're a bit selective about like, when are we supposed to care about that? Well, in the last episode we're talking about, in the 2-episode arc, we get another child who is trying to be more of an adult than perhaps he should be, like Lux Monteri. But before we get to Mr. Fett, let's talk about Asajj and the Night Sisters. Because,
I'm so sorry. I had more to say on that episode.
I said you should do 4, and then you did 1, and I was like, let's move on. So yeah, no, keep going.
No, you're good. Okay, I would be remiss if we talked about this episode and didn't talk about Ahsoka's original quad decapitation.
That was pretty awesome.
When the droids come in and they make a distraction, R2 throws her sabers, and she's kind of being held by ropes in between these 4 Mandalorians, and she whips out her sabers, spins in a circle, and you see a cut go across all their throats. And it's a children's show, so they won't show us the decapitation, but they show us kind of the bodies falling, and it's just like, oh, she's such a baddie, she's such a savage. And I could be misremembering, but I believe we see her pull out that move again sometime in Rebels or during Ahsoka. It may be on droids, not people, but I
think she actually does it to clones at the end of the Clone Wars in the episodes after Order 66. But we'll definitely keep an eye on it, because it definitely happens again. But yeah, it is super badass.
Now let's talk about Asajj.
Okay, so this is one of my favorite and one of my least favorite episodes.
Amen.
Quickly reminding you, this is the arc that we get is Asajj has attempted to go take down Dooku with Savage. It has not, Savage Opress. It has not worked out. She's kind of come back to Dathomir to meet up with Mother Talzin and the Night Sisters and say, like, I'm so sorry, it didn't work. What can I do? And Mother Talzin's like, I understand. It's time for you to officially become one of us. And so we get a lot more of the mysticism of the Night Sisters. We get a lot more of their kind of perspective and how they're on the dark side, but they're not the Sith, and they're, kind of this interesting place. And we get all excited to have a lot more episodes with and a lot more time with the Night Sisters in the universe, just in time for Dooku to decide that he has to kill them all and sends in Grievous with an army of droids. And there's some cool fighting, and we'll get into that. But eventually, Mother Talzin, all the Night Sisters except for Asajj are wiped out. Asajj is told that she has to like continue on and like, go be her best life while sort of keeping alive the memory of the Night Sisters.
Yeah.
And she goes off and like is at a bar and has the best reaction to a woman getting flirted with that she doesn't want to be flirted with, where like she gives the guy like a warning of like, hey, I would like you not to do this. And he's like, well, but how do I get to know you? And then
he grabs her is the problem. He grabs her.
Oh, I forgot about the grab. Okay, you're right. Because
she goes to take a drink and he grabs her hand. And for me, I'm like, whatever happens next, justified. Don't touch a woman.
Well, agreed. But to me, I kind of like the idea that it was justified even without the grab. That he's like, I'm here to hit on you. She's like, I'm not. No thanks. He doesn't get the hit. Instant stabbing. Like,
yep.
Go to death. Go directly to death. But either way, it's a great moment. Don't hit on girls and don't hit on women in bars if they're not interested. Read the room, please. But then like she gets noticed by this group of bounty hunters that includes our old favorite Bosk, as well as what's basically a psychotic schoolgirl in the way she looks. What's her name?
Lotsie, I believe is her full name. They just call her Lots most of the time.
Yeah.
I have a list of the bounty hunters.
I think she's an adult, but she's got like the pigtails and the pleated skirt, and it's like definitely a whole look.
It's very like Harley Quinn inspired, in my opinion. She very much gives like Harlequin.
Yeah, I think that's definitely kind of a good description of it. And then she goes on this adventure with them. She has some shenanigans. She's not really questioning much. Oh, and it turns out the leader of the gang is Boba Fett, who at this point is, because remember, Jango asked that he age normally, unlike the clones. So he's maybe about like 10 years old, 12 years old at this point.
12 to 13, I think.
But brilliant. Jango's son. He's running his own little band of bounty hunters. Turns out that they're there to kidnap a little girl and or like kind of a teenage girl, take her to be the child bride of this like fat old guy. Asajj figures this out and is like, okay, well, I don't like this.
Yeah.
I want to help this girl, but still I want to get paid. I'm not like that much of a hero yet. So she lets the people think that she's giving them the girl, because she's actually giving them Boba Fett in the crate, which that's going to go well for him. Takes their money, takes the girl back to her people, but is also like, I'm a nice woman. I brought her back. Pay up, please. Collects that money, but also gets to have a little bit of a, I didn't sell a girl into like romantic sexual slavery. That's kind of a cool thing to do. Rides off into the sunset.
Yeah. And I will say at the top of this episode, the bounty hunters don't know the cargo they're transporting. And they don't know it until the middle of a battle when the chest gets tipped over. And the girl comes out and Boba Fett actually goes, oh my God. He's like, what the heck? Like, don't worry. I'll protect you. And she bitch slaps him. And he's like, girl.
Yeah, there's definitely a sort of, I think it does echo that thing of 14 of like, don't get involved in stuff unless you really ask questions. Like, you need to know what the hell you're getting up to.
Yeah. But that's the way bounty hunters work. And since Asajj killed their 6th member, they were like, well, join us on this bounty or we turn you in. And she was like, shit.
Let's go back to the first part of it, though, for a second, because if you accept that the Night Sisters are going to get killed off, this is a pretty badass episode to do it in. The fighting is awesome. It's a lot of Night Sister magic. They like summon up the ghost of one of the first leaders of the Night Sisters, and then she resurrects an army of zombie Night Sisters.
I will say, I think Doc is actually alive. I don't think old Doc is a ghost.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I think she's just kind of like minding her business in her little cave, and they go and
it's kind of like she has to like use some magic to get into the cave. It's like a different...
Talzin like opens a wall and then closes it behind her.
I thought it was kind of like going into the land of the dead, but you may well be right. She's just kind of over there.
That could be. I've always interpreted it as like our elder's secret hiding place because she's the most valuable. But that's a good point as well. Could be.
I think both work, and that's with the Night Sisters. Part of the point is like death is like, okay, it's an inconvenience, but it's not like, the end the way it is for others, because they're just necromancers all over the place. And anyway, and then like Mother Talzin like makes basically like a voodoo doll of Dooku and is like torturing him, and it's only because she's killed before she can kill him. So it's a badass episode for the end of the Night Sisters. I just am really mad. Like, I hate that they were like, we've just established the Night Sisters, this badass group. Now we're gonna totally get rid of them.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember, I think I've mentioned on this show before, I recently did a watch through the Clone Wars with my brother, who watched like the first 3 seasons when we were kids and then fell off. And we watched this episode, and at the end of the episode, because he lived in another country, he just texted me, he's like, wait, so they're like actually gone? Like they're actually dead though? I was
Yeah.
like, yeah. And he was like, what the hell, man? Like they were so cool. Like we just got to know them. And it was fun to see like someone's fresh reaction to it, since I've seen the episode several times and gotten used to the feeling of it. But it's really so shocking. And like you said, we get this like beautiful like rebirth scene, and they're chanting, and she goes under the water, and Mother Talzin says something about like, do you accept to use the way of the dark magics instead of like the dark side of the Force? And just so much community. We see them, they're having a campfire, they're having a celebration, everyone is celebrating that Ventress is here. And somebody, Karis, grabs her shoulder and says, like, Ventress, I'm so honored to have you as my sister.
Yeah.
And it's such beautiful moments. And then the droid bombers roll up and shit explodes from there.
Yeah. And it's like, for Asajj's story, it's beautiful. It's heartbreaking because she's the person who has never been accepted for her. She's always been somebody else's tool. It's always been, we want you so that you can be part of this group, part of the Jedi, part of the Sith. Always someone else's agenda. And while, Mother Talzin isn't like, goodness and butterflies and light, she's clearly dark side, but she's very much like, we wanted to protect our own, and you're our own, and so you're going to be safe here, and you're going to be able to do your own thing here. And then so to have her lose that is heartbreaking and beautiful. I just wish it hadn't been so overwhelming. It had been like the Night Sisters are driven into hiding or driven into something like that. And you might, I don't know if you know more about this than I do, or maybe this is something we ask Alex. This is late in season 4. For those who don't remember, the show kind of ended in season 5, and then season 6 was like a bunch of episodes that they thought weren't going to air, but did. And then season 7 came much later. And I wonder if, like, was there already a suspicion that they weren't going to get many more seasons? And so they kind of, like, there was an original plan to do a lot more with the Night Sisters, but then they decided, look, if we don't have only have one more season and there's so much else we want to do, should we just kill them off now?
Yeah. That's an interesting thought. I don't know. I haven't seen I've never researched it, so I haven't seen anything saying one way or another whether the decision was made based on plot alone, or if there were extenuating circumstances of like production and financing. I'm not sure. But yeah, it's so sad to see them go just like that. And one thing go ahead. One thing I will mention is that Mother Talzin technically doesn't die in this episode. We see the other Night Sisters like stabbed. We see old Daka is impaled by Grievous. But Grievous comes at Talzin and she whooshes away into a green smoke.
Right.
And so there's like this idea of like, oh, did she give up her like quote unquote earthly body? Or, oh, is this like, was she never real? It brings up a lot of questions about Talzin, and it sets it up that they can bring her back in season 6 as kind of like this ghost witch, misty witch. And one other thing about this episode that I loved, that I thought you might like, they finally brought the defoliator back. From the episodes with our favorite Scottish Lurman. They finally brought back the weapon that we said, why are they testing a super weapon in season 1 and never using it again? Here they used it.
Yeah.
And it's devastating.
It didn't make too much sense, but it at least it came along. So that's good. The way I understood what happens with Mother Talzin, and the reason why I think of it as death, but certainly a continuing, is, to me, this is kind of a dark side equivalent of what Obi-Wan does at the end of A New Hope. Because to me, like, she becomes the mist that is often associated with their magic, and then she's able to kind of like have an effect on things, but only, like, she never just does her own thing. it's like when someone comes to Dathomir, they can kind of like bring back her spirit to talk to them. So it's not exact 1-to-1, but that's how I kind of took it.
Yeah, no, yeah, I get that. That makes sense.
Yeah. So
That
maybe,
makes a lot of sense.
she isn't dead, but she, Grievous struck her down and she became stronger than he could possibly imagine, or whatever it is. But so yeah, now let's go on to the next one. She leaves, she goes to this bar. She stabs the guy who grabs her and tries to like talk to her, and just gives the response of, "I'm not a talker," which again is just such a wonderful, like, leave me alone,
Yeah.
She's got headphones on. Don't go and try to talk to her because she might have a lightsaber, and I'm voting not guilty if that happens. But yeah, what do you think of this episode of getting to see Bosk, getting to see like the beginnings of this gang that, spoilers, is going to show up a lot more?
I loved this episode. I love a good bounty hunter episode. I loved that although it still had serious themes, I feel like whenever they throw in bounty hunters, there's a touch of lightheartedness just because it gets us away from the main plot of the war.
Yeah.
I loved Embo's little cameo, him and his hound. We got to see Dengar. He was part of the squad, which is a very little mentioned character, but he is technically one of the bounty hunters sent after Han Solo.
As
yeah,
is
there
Bosk.
was as is Bosk. Yep, Bosk is as well. So is Boba Fett, obviously, but this is baby Boba, like we mentioned. And then Lots, who she has this very fun, like scaly lasso type weapon that's really cool that I can never tell if it's a weapon or if it's part of her. I don't know, but it's cool. And then we get to see a droid called High Singer, which I don't know if he ever appears again. I don't have any recollection of him, but I know he can withstand being electroshocked, which most droids cannot withstand that.
Yeah.
Whereas he just kind of flicks it off and goes like, the subtitle said mechanical growl.
Yeah. And I love that he's kind of like a babysitter / protector / manservant to Boba.
Yeah.
And you're right. You commented on the humor of this. And I think it's hard to sort of do humor and darkness, especially with kids at the same time. And some things do it very well. Some things miss the boat. And I think sometimes Star Wars can miss the boat on that kind of thing.
Yeah.
This one, I think, really nails it because he's a 12-year-old running a group of bounty hunters. That's inherently funny. That's inherently ridiculous. At the same time, he's someone who 3 years ago watched his father be beheaded and literally like held the head of his decapitated father, has no family, is making his way in the galaxy by himself, and in order to survive has had to like not only become a bounty hunter, but like take on a crew. There's something like really dark and really tragic about that, as well as being kind of ridiculous and funny. And like, I think this episode captures both sides of that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. I feel like watching this episode as a child or just, when I was younger, I interpreted Boba to be between 16 and 18. But now as an adult and with logic, I know that timeline wise, that's not true.
Right.
And so like he kind of came off to me as like a delinquent teen. Yeah. And it's like, no, he is either a preteen or a new teen. And like you said, it's really sad that since he had nothing and no one, he not only like turned to a life of crime, but somehow built up enough to have a crew to protect him. And that feels like his family.
Yeah. And it's like, it's good that he's put together a family, but also kind of rough. And
this family depends on you paying them.
Right. Because just in terms of the timeline, I think we established that the order for the clones is put in about 10 years before the events of Attack of the Clones. And that starts off the Clone Wars. And the Clone Wars are a maximum of 3 years. So yeah, so he's 12 to 13 at this point. Maybe a little older, depending on, like, maybe it wasn't exactly 10 years, it's more like 11. But I think the oldest he could be is 14 right now.
Yeah, I agree.
So, yeah, what do you got on your list for this one?
This one, it's like a fun. It gives heist movie kind of, and I've never seen Bullet Train, but I imagine it's similar because they're all zipping down the track on this high speed train, and the native people are chasing them on these giant ass centipedes. And then they
Mhm.
hop on board. They've got these big ass vibro blades. They're very cool design people. They have bright yellow eyes, these really cool masks. And yeah, we just get a bunch of fun fight scenes, you know, hand-to-hand combat. We see Dengar use his little bombs because he's a little bitch and doesn't want to get his hands dirty. And then he gets his shit rocked and gets thrown off the train. I don't know why I hate Dengar. I just decided to have a problem with him today.
Mhm.
Anyways, surprisingly, Bosk somehow also gets his shit rocked and flies off the train. Lotz and Heisinger go together because she tries to grab somebody, accidentally grabs Heisinger. Somebody pushes him out of the train, and that pulls her as well, since she has her fancy little lasso. Yeah, one thing I loved though about this episode is the design of this planet. It's
Yeah.
so cool. It gives the vibes of eternal nighttime. That was not
Mhm.
said, but you're there and it's not quite night, but it's very dark out. It's very dim.
Yeah.
And these people, they have really white skin and light hair, which again kind of, if we're assuming their biology is similar to humans, you need a sun to be not pale.
Yeah.
And if they don't have a sun, it would make sense that their skin is so white. Yeah, and I loved that they mentioned, you know, hey, why can't we just land a ship on this planet? Wouldn't that be easier? And the guy
Mhm.
was like, yeah, it would be, but the entire planet is pressurized, so your ship would explode upon landing. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, that's so cool. Like, what a fun concept for a planet.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and, like, they make this whole train job basically, like, if you've seen
Mm-hmm.
Firefly, it's that same kind of thing. They make it make sense, and
Yeah.
I think I like all of how it plays out. I love the stuff with Asajj and, like, bringing back the girl. But I also love, like, I think it would've been very easy to make Boba be, "Oh, who cares? It doesn't matter. Cargo's cargo. Shove her back in
Yeah.
the box." And I like that he still has some, like, yeah, I mean, he's not a hero, but he's also not like, you know, villain McVillain pants. He's got
Yeah.
some humanity here.
He's a child looking at a child, being like, why the fuck were you in a chest?
Yeah, exactly. And to me, it also, I think, you know, I like the Boba Fett show a lot more than a lot of other people did. It
I
had its
loved it. Yeah.
problems. I get it. But one of the things was that people want him to be evil McEvil pants. They want him to be this super badass. And the thing
Mm-hmm.
is, he's, you know, just a man making his way in the galaxy. Like he's not like super benevolent, but he's also not like, he's not unnecessarily cruel, and he has no real desire to like help subjugate people just to make a buck.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it's very much in his character that he'd be like, yeah, I'll help some criminals smuggle some like cargo or whatever, but like
Mm-hmm.
a person, a kid, that's not cool.
A child to be, I mean, he doesn't know this, but a child to be a bride
Yeah.
to a clearly adult being.
Yeah. Not cool. Not cool.
No.
All right. What's on your list? Let's wrap it up and take us home.
Last thing for this episode, I feel like it's one of those things where you'd expect them to bring it up a season later, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe this does show some like time crunch on their end. But the girl, her name is Pluma, she says to Ventress, like, you would never get it. You don't know what it's like to have everyone you love ripped away from you. We all know that happened yesterday.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah.
I mean, with this timeline, she might have been in the Outer Rim for months. We don't know. But Ventress says, like, oh, how I wish I didn't.
Yeah.
And that's when she has that sort of change, I believe, and
Mm-hmm.
decides to let the girl go back with her brother. But yeah, so I love that this episode, we already, ever since Dooku tried to assassinate her, we've seen her kind of run through this morally gray space where she's still decidedly evil. You know, she kills a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people without mercy, but she's not, you know, working for like the man, like the big bads.
Right.
And so I like that we see just kind of a gradual graying of her character
Mm-hmm.
rather than dark to light. She's somewhere in the middle, which I believe is where the Night Sisters kind of land.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I do like how this develops her character. And that's all I have on this episode. One thing I missed from the first episode.
Hit us.
When Ahsoka comes out, she's like, hey, Lux, where the hell are we? And then Death Watch comes and lands, and she's like, oh my God. And they're like, hey, Lux. And she looks at him like, what the fuck did you do?
Mm-hmm.
And they say, who's the girl? And he kind of looks at her, and she kind of looks at him, and she goes, I'm his betrothed, you know, and like falls on his shoulder, whatever.
Mhm.
And Bo-Katan steps forward, looks her up and down, goes, "A little skinny if you ask me," and slaps her on the ass.
Yep.
And that's just hilarious for that to be their first interaction. And then our next known interaction of them two is trying to take Mandalore back over from Maul. And it
Yeah.
just, I
While
think part
being
of it,
very, very grumpy at each other.
very grumpy, yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think some of it shows like, because I've always thought there's a bit of an age gap between Bo and Satine.
Yeah.
A bit more than we maybe think. I always felt like Bo was more of a late teenager, early 20s when she first joins Death Watch.
Mhm. Yeah, I
Whereas
think
Satine
Satine is
was,
like the much older, like 10 to 15 years older.
yeah, okay, yeah. So I just think it's funny to see Bo doing like some childish ass, petty ass shit when
Mhm.
she's such a serious, grounded character in the live action films or live
Totally.
action
Totally.
shows.
Can you hold on one second?
Mhm.
Come in. Okay, I'm like 5 minutes away from ending, so we're all good. Yeah, I totally hear that. And my last thing, and then we can wrap up, is it's gonna be about the. Oh, no, I hear all that. I love all the stuff you brought, and I just want to close with one last thing, which is that we have this 2 episode arc. And this is not the first time, but it's one of the only times. Here are characters who do not appear in this arc. These
Mhm.
two: Anakin, Ahsoka, Obi-Wan, Mace Windu, Darth Maul, Maul, Savage, um, Palpatine, Dooku, Grievous, battle droids in any real way, any clones, Rex, any of them. None of those characters are in this episode, and we don't need them. Like
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes there's a need to sort of be like, okay, we're gonna tell you the story, but we're gonna have Anakin show up at the end, or Obi-Wan, or you
To
know,
tie it in.
yeah, to tie it in, or some other Jedi. And I
Mhm.
just love that we just don't need that.
Yeah.
This is just people on the edge of the galaxy doing their stuff.
This is just a train job.
So yeah, exactly. So, all right, Aaron, as always, awesome to have you on. Thank you so much. Please check out Lady Tano Creates on various places where you can find Aaron's awesome cosplay and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Mostly Instagram.
Yep. Instagram, yep, for sure. Please check out my other podcast, Superhero Ethics. We're having a lot of fun on there. Hang out here because pretty soon we're going to start doing some episodes to get you ready for Maul, Shadow Lord, the show that's coming out pretty soon. That's going to be super exciting. So please subscribe, like, all that good stuff. Most importantly, we have spoken.
Stay classy, Karlak. Please reassemble us.
I'm not much of a talker.
Ha!